All right, for BuckeyesNow on Sports Illustrated, I'm Brendan Gulick along with Brett Hiltbrand, and boy, was this a fun night to be a Buckeye fan. What a win at Iowa, 89-85, the fourth win of the season against a top 15 team on the road. That is ridiculous. This is some instant analysis here as we break down all that happened tonight out in freezing cold, blizzarding Iowa City. In a game, Brett, that, boy, Ohio State had a few moments where you just weren't sure if it was going to happen. And I think the most pressing of those moments was early in the second half, down 61-50. And then all of a sudden, something clicked, and they threw it into full throttle, and they started to figure it out, and really an impressive road win.
Everything went in. Everything they threw at the hoop went in. That's usually how it works as far as good things happening when you're starting to make shots. That was the best basketball game I have seen in years.
Long time.
A very, very long time. If you liked help side defense, maybe not so much. If you're a big fan of really like quality shell defense, that you probably hated that basketball game. But that's what two elite teams offensively look like, and they're, especially when we talk about offensive efficiency, I think Iowa was ranked first in the country in efficiency coming into this game, and Ohio State not super far behind.
Yeah, they were fourth.
Right, perfect. Yeah, so it was everything in some ways that we expected and hoped to see from that game, and I think honestly, to me, it felt like a deep into the NCAA tournament type game. We're talking at like the Elite Eight, even like regional final or Elite Eight, Final Four type game. It was a slugfest. It was teams going to their strengths and those defenses not being able to stop them. It was epic. It was an outstanding basketball game.
To me, what was wild about it was it had the Big Ten slugfest feel to it with elite offense. And maybe this league doesn't always have that. You've always got big physical guys that are banging around in the paint and trying to figure out a way to score points. 28 3-pointers between the two teams. It was split right down the middle. The balance on both sides. I mean, everybody wants to talk about Luka Garza, and look, for good reason. The guy's an elite player. The guy that blew me away tonight was Nunji. He was a problem. Their length, their athleticism. Bohannon can shoot it. Wieskamp's a legit pro prospect. Iowa is a very, very good basketball team, and I think people might get a little bit lulled to sleep thinking, gee, they've lost, what is it now, 3 of their last 4 or whatever. They are still Final Four good, but maybe we're finding out the Buckeyes are too. I don't know.
I think that's fair. I mean, we said it the last time, we talked here about where we kind of placing the expectations of this Ohio State basketball team come tournament time. I think that's maybe even almost bare minimum for this Iowa team, as far as that teams that seem tailor-made to be successful come tournament. You like length and you like depth of scoring potential. Those guys who are maybe third and fourth down on the scoring charts, their ability to go out and find shots and get them to fall. That's usually a recipe for success come tournament time. Unless you're Tony Bennett and UVA. It was, Luka Garza is such an interesting player to me, because I'm a really big fan. I think we meaning basketball.
Sure.
I think referees police bigs a little bit too much, because big tree fall hard, right? Like when these guys throw their weight around, it looks more violent than it probably should be. And so I'm a big proponent of letting those guys play, because it's already hard enough in this modern game to be a big back to the basket. And he uses his size about as well as anyone I think I've seen in a while.
His motor's ridiculous.
Yeah. He's such a different player than, even those first 2 years we saw him, where he was like soft maybe, and I think Jay Billis said on the broadcast, he was relentless. I think that was a word used a couple of different times. Man, how could you not say that? Like, that's the perfect way to describe him. And, if you're built around a guy like that who contributes on both ends in the paint, especially in that extended matchup zone that they seem to be playing, if you combine that with wings who can shoot it, and that is tailor-made, prime time to be successful come tournament time. And Fred McCaffrey's that's his best team he's ever had, point blank.
No, for sure. There's two things that come to mind immediately here, and one of them is, Chris Holtmann. I wanted to ask him this post game, and I'm glad that I think it might have been Patrick Murphy from 247 Sports asked him. Basically said something to the effect of, hey, could you have won this game earlier in the season? And I don't think it's a disparaging question. I think it's more, he's talked so much about growth throughout the course of the year that it's fair to ask, hey, look, this was a really tough, grinded out game with a real roller coaster to it. He referenced a few times how fun it must have been to watch. At one point they were down by 11. And I actually thought the very matter-of-fact way that Coach Holtmann said, no, game 2 this year was ugly. And it was ugly for players, and he said it was ugly as a coach, and it was bad. And to think, back to the beginning of the season, now 4 wins on the road against Illinois, Rutgers, Wisconsin, and now Iowa. I mean, that's crazy, crazy impressive to me how far this group has come without a legit superstar. And obviously the point guard thing we've talked a ton about because it's been one of the primary storylines here, especially in the second half of the year. What did you think of having CJ Walker and Michi Johnson on the floor at the same time? Because I was trying to think back. I'm not sure they've played together. And if they have, it hasn't been for very long. But tonight they got some run together. I
think that was the first time we've seen it, since Mich came over and enrolled early. I think you can do that against teams that are running zone. And that's probably why they were out there at the same time. You're looking for, more options, I would guess, especially when they decided to extend that matchup 2-3 out a little bit further. The idea there, I think, being if you can beat someone off the dribble, then you also then have a little bit more space to deal with. So a guy, those two guys obviously are probably two of the better Buckeyes when it comes to, taking guys on with the dribble. I don't think we'll see that very often.
Yeah, probably not.
And it was when Iowa decided to go man in the last 2.5 minutes. I said this to no one in particular here in my basement by myself. I was like, "This is a wrap. The game's over. If you're abandoning that to go to man against this Ohio State team, it's done. Game over, because they'll eat that for breakfast." And they probably made their last 2 minutes and change a little bit more competitive. I think CJ Walker got fouled on that one inbound that cut it to a one possession game because it resulted in a turnover. That was probably a foul. But outside of that, that was a curious decision to me. We talk about in football, putting things on tape, and sometimes you do that just to make opposing coaches later on in the schedule, take up the time to be able to, plan for everything. If you were, playing Ohio State a little bit later here in the coming weeks, watching them beat a zone so soundly is going to keep you up at night. And because now those cut-ups, you're double. If you're an assistant coach, you're doubling those cut-ups. It was, I think about, we talk about tempo in basketball, and the elite teams in college basketball are one thing that they do better than anyone else is dictating at which dictating tempo, the tempo that they want to play, and they make you play at the pace that they're interested based on their matchups, that they want to play at that pace and that tempo. Ohio State now has shown us They can go up and down, they can go grind it, and they can kind of play somewhere in the middle. And they are totally pretty much, I don't want to use the D word here. Dominant is not quite the right word. Let's dial it back. But they can show that they can win in basically at any tempo, but they're the ones who are going to showcase and get out in the front foot and dictate that. And that is a recipe for success if you're able to do that, come March and into April.
I totally agree with you, man. And I'm so impressed by the way this team just keeps on keeping on. They are really good at finding a way to just not let little things bother them too much throughout the course of a game. I want to give folks a little bit of a look here at the final box score. Obviously, the balance for the Buckeyes is impressive, right? 16 for Washington, 16 apiece for Young and Liddell there. But this is the guy that I don't think has gotten enough love. Justice Suing, 12 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists in 34 minutes of play. It felt like when Justice wasn't running the show offensively that the Buckeyes were kind of lacking things, and they really needed him. I just thought that Justice Suing lately, even in games where he's not, ripping up the score sheet and stuffing baskets left and right, there is a presence about him that he didn't have, I don't think, at the beginning of the year. I know he had one good double-digit scoring game kind of early in his Ohio State career, for one of the first couple games, but most of the time it hasn't been some crazy stat sheet stuffing game. And man, I really thought he gave Ohio State a steadying presence tonight.
Yeah, and I think those rebounds were especially important. He had 2 or 3 really tough in traffic defensive rebounds in the last, say, 5 minutes of that game. And then I would guess he probably had, I can't quite see it super well on the screen. I would guess he would have somewhere in the 3 to 4 range as far as offensive rebounds. And 2 of them led directly to, he had 4 offensive rebounds, 2 of which led directly to buckets and keeping the ball alive. And, I think, he's a steadying presence for Chris Holtmann on both ends of the floor, which is really all you can ask for, a guy who plays in his spot, who can be really play, like at this point in the year, is playing at times like 1 through 4. It depends on the personnel on the court. So he was really steady. I thought Kyle Young hit 2 threes today. So I looked this up because this still boggles my mind. Kyle Young hit 2 threes in this game today. Those were the 45th and 46th 3-point attempts he's made in his 4 years at Ohio State. He's made less than 10 of them. I think he's got 9. No, let's see, 7, 8. Yeah, nine makes in his OSU career. 2 of them in this game. They were dead and buried until Dwayne Washington hit those 2 threes back to back to cut that Iowa lead to, I think it was 6 or maybe 4. But it was timely made 3-point shots that not only kept Ohio State in the game when Iowa seemed to be finding some footing, but also then pushed them out in front. And that's huge.
Here's the Iowa side of the box score. I tried to blow that up a little bit so it's a little easier
I can see
folks to see. I mean, this is something that really jumps off the page to me. 1.25 points per possession. Most people don't really understand how to evaluate that. Points per possession. If you are averaging 1.0 points per possession, that's considered pretty good. If you're at 1.1 point per possession, that's honestly elite. To be at 1.25, that goes to show how efficient the offensive end of the floor has been for Iowa. And there's lots of different ways to get to a number like that, but they're scoring on 53% of the possessions they have, and they turned it over, less than 1 out of 10 possessions. They really make you work for it. And I think Ohio State deserves a ton of credit for the way they earned tonight's win. By comparison, look at Ohio State's number tonight. You want to talk about making the most of your opportunities. Almost 1.35. I mean, that is bonkers. That's got to. I'd have to look it up. It's got to be Ohio State's most efficient offensive number of the season.
Oh, you don't even have to look it up. I guarantee it is.
Yeah, and scoring on 58% of their possessions is huge. The thing that really jumped off the page at me tonight, Brett, their points in the paint. They scored 32 points in the paint tonight against an enormous Iowa team, and a good chunk of those came early in the first half.
Yeah.
They weren't afraid to try to slash their way, get inside. And I'm not so sure that the idea was drive at Garza to try to make him pick up fouls. I don't think that was necessarily the mentality. But I just appreciated Ohio State's willingness to lean into the challenge they were seeing tonight, the physicality, the toughness inside from Iowa. Look, the Hawkeyes shot it well from the outside. They clearly have some guys that can let it rip. But, man, this was a fantastic victory, and one I think the Buckeyes are awfully proud of and should be awfully proud of, because this is the kind of game that, you're going along in the season, right? You beat Illinois, you feel really good about it. You go to Madison, you beat Wisconsin, you feel really good about it, and you should. You don't want to make too much of those. But, man, you go beat Iowa at Iowa, where everybody knew the best player in college basketball this year was coming back to Iowa. He has played like it all season long, and he's averaging almost 27 points a game. Tonight he had 16. And he really didn't have very many high percentage looks, easy buckets in the paint. Kyle Young, Zed Key, E.J. Liddell defended him really well. I just thought, all things told, man, this is the kind of game that told us a lot about what this Buckeye team is made of. And I know it's a tough schedule going down the stretch, Brett, but they've got a chance to make a run here.
Yeah, I agree. I also think the on the ball pressure by the Ohio State guards made entries into Garza really tough, and that goes hand in hand is coupled perfectly with really physical defensive presence in the paint. But if you're able to make entries tough, if you can reduce Garza's touches, I mean, that's kind of tailor-made, for being successful on that end of the floor against a guy like that. I love how Jay Billis said when they brought up the wooden watch, and he was like, it's called the wooden watch because everyone else is watching Garza win the wooden award. He was in rare form tonight. I love how loose they get now that they're doing the broadcast remotely, because he doesn't get the icy glare from Schulman when he's sitting beside him, so he knows he can go out a little bit and has a little bit of leash. When they were talking about some of the legalese with I forget, I don't even remember what it was, some lawsuit, and he was like, I think it was Al Davis suing the NFL, which the 33rd party is on as we speak. He was like, I'll be on Instagram Live talking about the legalese after the game. He would have never done that at a game in person, which was pretty fabulous. I
want to jump in here real quick. So the Lee Smith channel just dropped a comment on our YouTube stream, and whether you're watching on YouTube or on Twitter, wherever you might be watching, if you want to interact with the show, please do send us a comment. We'd love to hear from you, and we can try to react to some of the things that you have on your mind. I have to start taking this team serious now comment. I guess that's an interesting conversation, because they've had some really good wins that might have made some fans feel that way earlier.
I was going to say, bro, welcome to 2 weeks ago.
Right. But there is something about beating this Iowa team. Everybody kind of expects that Wisconsin is going to be a good team. They're tough to beat, but, maybe Ohio State caught them on a good day. Illinois has obviously been a good basketball program now for a while. I don't think people take Rutgers seriously yet, even though they should. But there's something about all the hype around this Iowa team that I think tonight is going to start turning some heads. Ohio State, I think, probably should be ranked in the top 5 come Monday. And if they do, it'll be the first time they're in the top 5 since 2012, which would be an awfully impressive accomplishment considering well, actually, you know what? No, I take that back. They were top 5 last year. Yeah, they went to they were top 5 last year.
Who are you kicking out in the top 5? You kicking Michigan out?
Somewhere along the way, you kind of have to.
That would be who I would.
You kind of have to, right? I mean, I'm not saying Michigan isn't a top 5 caliber team, but I mean, look, right now, Gonzaga and Baylor are pretty bar none, number 1 and number 2 nationally. Villanova's got a fantastic team. And then there's sort of a group of like 6 or 7 teams that I think could shuffle a little bit that Ohio State should absolutely be a part of. So, yeah, I think there's something to be said for taking this team seriously right now. It doesn't surprise me that at least some fans are starting to feel that way.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I think, if you're an Ohio State basketball fan who has a bit of a natural guard up when it comes to watching the Buckeyes, be successful in February, I think that's fair. I would say, the human mind is an amazing thing when it comes to natural defenses against potential threats. And certainly, a March Madness letdown by the Ohio State Buckeyes has happened in the past. So I totally get that. But yeah, I think if you weren't taking them seriously already, this game 100% tonight checks that box. And from now on, you definitely should be. As far as thinking that this team is not only good as making the tournament and making an impact, but being a team that majorly influences how that tournament ends up, kind of running out and who eventually wins it. And I think it goes back to me. It'll always go back to pace of play and how if you're able to showcase during the regular season the ability to play at different tempos and be successful, that's huge. And tonight was like kind of the one unchecked box, if you will, that we needed to see from this Chris Holtmann coach team. Can you get out and run and gun a little bit against a team that's the best probably run and gun team in the country? And they did that. And I think that's one of the reasons why this game was so good, right? Is Iowa didn't really make a mistake tonight or a series of mistakes that led to this defeat, right? You can't look at the box score and circle turnovers and go, there you go. Or you can't circle like free throw percentage and be like, look what they left on the table. And that one missed free throw on the front end of the 1-and-1 where Justin Ahrens was called for an absolutely ridiculous cylinder violation that, if Billis had any hair, he would have been pulling it out. He made his thoughts certainly clear during the broadcast. That might have been the only quote unquote mistake that you could point to as being somewhat pivotal. But it was a perfectly executed basketball game.
I think there were some moments where Chris Holtmann was rightfully pretty hot in the first half, especially. There were some tough calls. Ohio State shot 2 foul shots in the first half.
Yeah, I was a little surprised to see them not get to the line a little bit more, especially with how much they were attacking the rim early on in the first half. And
I'm okay with the officials letting them play, but
I would prefer that personally.
Yeah, I mean, for a team that gets to the line, 20, I think it's like 27 times per game on average, and they shoot, almost 78% as a team. I think it happens organically. It's not like, hey, as a team, mentality is let's get to the free throw line. I think it just kind of happens with the way they play. But we did see we did see a rare sight tonight. CJ Walker missed a foul shot, so his free throw percentage for the season went from I think 98% to 96%. Yeah. So no reason to freak out if you're a Ohio State fan. I think he'll make most of them.
I think the idea that this is why Jim Boeheim in Syracuse plays that really somewhat infamous 2-3 zone that they've been playing now for his almost 4 decades up in Cuse, is that he and he's remarked on this in the past that he believes that there's a psychological aspect to it that fouls when you are playing zone look a lot less dramatic than if you're playing man-to-man and you have a guy on your hip and you're going up. That looks a lot more like harsh, if you will. And so that's a big reason why he kind of continues to stick with it, even though maybe there hasn't been a ton of success from them, outside of that national championship about 20 some years ago. And I think that was maybe a factor. I always think refs always come into games too a little bit with preconceived notions, like we're going to come out and we're going to be really loose with this one. And it's like that for the first maybe, 6-7 minutes of a half. And then at that point, things are out of hand. Then it's halftime. And then they come out in the second half. And you saw that a little bit, right? Where all of a sudden the whistles are flying as they try and swing the pendulum, back to the other end of the spectrum. I would be totally fine if there wasn't a foul call in the entire game. That's just me personally, and my attitudes towards basketball just in general.
Yeah,
and especially in a game when you have like a dominant big like Luka Garza, like that, it's fun for me to watch those guys really throw their weight around.
All right, we'll put a wrap on the live show here tonight. 89-85, really impressive win for the Buckeyes, and one that Buckeye Nation I know will be relishing here as the season moves along. And they've got the weekend off, if you will, but don't have too much longer before the next game. They'll play Monday in College Park against a Maryland team that probably is looking at Ohio State going, okay, here we go. I think Penn State just beat Maryland the other night, didn't they? Yeah. I'd have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure Penn State came back and beat Maryland the other night. I'm sorry, it was Purdue, not Penn State. Penn State beat Wisconsin a second straight time. See what happens when you try to do off the top of your head.
So it usually works though. Yeah,
it does. So big one tonight, and looking forward to seeing what comes on Monday at College Park. That's Brett Hiltbrand. I'm Brendan Gulick. Hope you subscribe to our content on our YouTube channel and go check out BuckeyesNow.com. We'll have lots of great stuff to keep you updated between now and Monday.